think ultimately everyone here will think of a time in their life when they felt like there was nothing ahead but problems. I think everybody can empathise with the feeling that no matter what you do, things are going to get worse. And for most people, they do get out of it, but virtually everybody has had that point at some time or another. Now, if I think about that same situation, but on a national level, as a people, as a race of people, as a country of people, we are nearing that same point now, where for so many people in this country, they cannot see a way out, and they cannot see a path ahead. Everywhere you turn, whether it's any party, any ideology, no matter who's talking, all you see is a relentless barrage of the same voices saying the same thing, which is that ultimately, no matter what you do, tomorrow's generation will be worse off than today's. Why is this happening? It's not necessarily because of any inherent problem. It's happening because of a very deliberate design. Because if you want to destroy a people, then you don't need to destroy them physically. You don't need to destroy them in their sanity. What you need to do is destroy their morale. If you can make people believe that no matter what they do, they are doomed, they will become doomed by their own faith in it. If you can convince people that their lot in life is to permanently be the victim, to be the maligned, oppressed person that everybody looks down on and defecates on, that is what people turn into. And time again, government after government, our entire country is facing this assault on its mind, where our people are constantly told how worthless, how pitiful, how crazy they are. They're constantly told that they deserve nothing, that they don't deserve to have a future, that they deserve to be second-class people. And when you tell people that enough and enough, they start to believe it in their own mind. And the more a person believes that they are a victim, the more of a victim they will become. If we think towards even the nationalist movement, it's a perfect example of what happens when an entire movement becomes consumed by pessimism and defeatism. There's a lot of people now who deep down, they still do believe that winning is possible. Deep down, they can envision the kind of world they want to live in. A world that is a utopia, a world where they, their children, their grandchildren have everything they desire. A world where their people as a whole have rights, not just individual people dotted about to do whatever they please to each other, but a world where as an entire race they are respected, not just in their own country, but across the world. People envision that, but they can't see a path as to how to get it. And it's because of this relentless propaganda designed to totally destroy any faith that our people have in their own worth. If we think to the fact that next month there's a general election in this country, and all you hear from every single voice on every single side of the argument is the opposition is worse than I am. Nobody can tell you a single thing that they will do that is good. None of them, whether it's Tories, Labour, Liberal Democrats, Greens, the left, the right, none of them can tell you a single thing that they will do to actually improve the lot of our people. But all of them can tell you everything that everybody else will do that is wrong. But even within our own sphere of politics, even within nationalism, the same thing is so prominent. Just today, in London, there's hundreds of people marching around the House of Parliament. And all of those people can tell you 1,000 things that are wrong with the country, and 1,000 things that are wrong with the status quo, and 1,000 things that should be done differently. But they can't actually tell you what the difference is. They can't actually tell you what the solution to any of it is. And the people that lead them and the people that organise them do the same thing, where they can tell 1,000 things that they don't like, but they can't tell one thing that is actually good. They can't tell you an alternative. It's one thing to be against the status quo, but it's another thing entirely to have a new status quo to put in its place. What our people need to do is to start talking less and less about everything that is wrong and more about everything that we want to do differently. If we are going to make any difference, and if we are going to actually cultivate something to replace the pathologically corrupt and crooked system, we have to always talk about it in terms of vision, in terms of the future, in terms of what we actually want tomorrow, not just everything that went wrong yesterday. Because ultimately, our people will have a future when our people actually will that future to exist. I've said it so many times in my life, not just in politics, but throughout my entire life. The only people in this world that are truly and utterly powerless are the people that have already convinced themselves that they are powerless. There is nobody in this world that has no voice at all. There are only people that choose not to speak. There are people who wouldn't believe that it was even possible to have a nationalist party meeting in the middle of Birmingham. Because even from our own circles, even from people who want change, the message is, oh well, don't bother going to Birmingham, don't bother going to Manchester, don't bother going to London, don't bother going to Leeds. These places are a write-off. If you want to do anything, you've got to go out to a tiny market town where everybody's wealthy and has no problems, then people might listen to you. And yet, after all that talk and after all that doom, here people are, 20, 30 people in the middle of Birmingham who have the same issues. Because ultimately, these are the people that are suffering. There's no good going to people whose lives aren't being destroyed. There's no good trying to sell a solution to the people that are sat in the House of Commons because they don't want a solution. It's the actual people of this country, the flesh and blood of this country, who are rooted to the soil with hundreds, if not thousands of years of heritage and history. These are the people that actually need a solution. These are the people that deserve a solution. If we think about the kind of vision that we want for our society, what might that vision be? I mean, I think back to my own experiences in the army, and I know there's other people in this room that have been in the forces as well. And I think back to how there's so many good things that I remember. Yes, I've left that behind me now, but I've left that behind me precisely because now I've decided to go to war with a greater enemy of my own choice. But I think back to a culture where you cared about the person next to you, where you didn't just fight for yourself, you fought for those around you, and as a consequence, everybody lived. An environment where it doesn't matter about one person, what matters is everybody. One person is defined by their place amongst their people. It's that sense of belonging. Ultimately, all people, no matter where they live, no matter where they come from, do want to belong. And everybody does belong somewhere. But what we've lost and what's been taken away from our people is that sense of belonging. And it's happened by a very deliberate design, because if you can turn an ancient and proud race of people into this rootless, aimless diaspora where every person thinks only for themselves and cares only about their own pocket, their own greed, and what they as an individual can take through life, very quickly you don't have a people anymore. You don't have a community. You don't have a national community. You just have an aimless, senseless mass of people that just happen to be in the same place. And if you can keep people in this state of weakness, if you can keep people as individuals, you keep them isolated. And people who are isolated are weak. And people who are weak are easy to crush. which is why the criminals in Westminster seek nothing more than to keep our people in a state of absolute weakness. Because the only way that they can hold on to their power, because they know how despised they are, they know how corrupt they are, and they know that most people in this country want nothing more than to be rid of them for all time and never to return. They know that the only way to keep our people weak and suppressed is to destroy any kind of community they might have, is to keep them in a state of isolation. One person flinging themselves against the barricades of Parliament, even if 1 million individual people do it, if they're individuals, they will only ever have the strength of one person. Individual people are weak, groups of people are indestructible. This is why any movement and any party which is going to provide a solution to our problems must inherently turn itself into a mass movement. It must turn itself into a party or a movement which is designed to cultivate not just individuals but a group. Everything has to be about groups and about communities and about collectives. It doesn't matter whether one person lives or dies, it matters whether the group as a whole lives or dies. If we're going to make any kind of dent in the people that are contaminating this country with their presence and with their design, it has to be done through the prism of a mass movement. And I know some people will say, well, what possible good can 10, 20 people do? How can 10 or 20 people possibly square off, even as a group, against institutions and systems? But the thing is, groups always start with just 2 or 3 people. They always start with half a dozen people. There might be 20, 30 people sat now in a bar in the middle of Birmingham. But then you think back, there was a time when the entire Christian church started as a dozen people sat around the table eating dinner. It's so easy for people to believe that there is only pain and suffering in the path ahead. And when people are constantly told that they should just accept consolation prizes, that, well, they should abandon any design to actually change the system and should just focus on protecting themselves from it, people end up drawn into that cycle of persecution. The more someone believes that their entire lot in life is to be a helpless, hated, persecuted victim, that is exactly what that person will become, and deservedly so, because that is the fate that someone has already decided for themselves. If someone's put in their own mind, if someone has cast themselves as the victim in the great story of life, the victim is all that there is for them. But our people are here. Even everyone here today is sat here precisely because we have decided that we are not victims. Nobody here is a victim. If everybody here wanted to be a victim, they wouldn't have come here today. And there will still be people that have come here today with the belief, well, it's probably impossible to change things. But deep down, that spark must be there. Because if it wasn't, then that person and those people that believe that would have already ended themselves long ago. If they didn't believe that there was any future, then they would have already removed themselves. But they haven't, because deep down, they do know there's something in them, and it's because they have the blood of the great people flowing in them. I know a lot of people have this belief and have this feeling that they want to leave a legacy behind them. Everybody knows that in the grand scheme of things, a single person's life is like a grain of sand on a beach. When it's stacked against the history of an entire country, it's nothing. My own existence is nothing when stacked against that. The only thing that will live on is the work that I do in life. And the only thing that lives on for everyone is the difference they make to the people around them. Which is why, what I can say to people when you walk away from here today, yes, I encourage absolutely everybody here, if they agree with the need for a fundamentally national agenda, to please become a member of the party, to support the party. If you can donate to the party, anything you can do to help is good. But what I will say to you, that the first main battle that has to be fought isn't a battle in the streets, and it's not a battle at the ballot. It's a battle in your own mind. You have to realise that you are capable of winning, that you are capable of succeeding. Because as soon as you do, suddenly all the things that previously failed will start to succeed. You have to recognise, and our people as an entire whole have to be helped to recognise, that the single biggest obstacle to their own salvation lies within their own mind. It's a prison of our own mind. And our people have been put in a prison of their own mind by 40, 50 years of relentless propaganda. But it's a prison that doesn't have keys. It's a prison where the doors aren't locked. And the only thing that you need to do to get out of that prison is to push open the door and walk out of it. And as soon as our people do that, as an entire race of people, as soon as they do that, they will be saved. As soon as they do that, then salvation will be upon them. Not before, not earlier, only then. Only when the predominant mantra coming from our entire people becomes not one of everything is wrong, the future is nigh, the future is doomed, there is only suffering and despair, when the mantra becomes our people have a future, we are Britannia, our nation lives in us, it lives in our blood. And as long as a single British person walks this earth, the spirit of Britannia isn't dead. When people say to me that Britannia is dead and it is no more, and the nation of old is perished in flames, never to be born again, all you need to do is look that person in the eye and say to them, Britannia is not dead because I live.